meeting today?
Ready?
We can briefly.
Okay, ready to start. Let's do the pledge.
Last audit.
Yeah, I saw that.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I didn't know that, Jeff.
Thank you all for coming. First thing on the agenda is agenda approval. Any changes?
No changes.
No changes? Okay. Do you have a motion to approve the agenda?
Also move.
I'll second.
Second by Ted. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, any public input? There being none, we'll move on to consent agenda. Any items that anyone would like to see polled or any questions on anything? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Ted, got a second?
Well, I'll second it. I'm just gonna make a notation, in the, when we looked at, K for expenses. I questioned her about the $10,000 in Enbridge. Did you guys notice that?
The $100,000, you mean?
Or the 100,000, and so here's what she said: it was paid to us in air. We refunded the payment because it should have gone to the SWCD for water quality improvement projects. That was part of Enbridge settlement with the state agencies. Okay.
You satisfied with that then? You-
I am,
Okay.
yep.
Did we have a second?
I did second it.
Second, okay.
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Moving on to employee recognition. And we have about 4 of them. One's from the attorney's office, Sherry Cunningham. Legal secretary began her full-time position on February 13th of this year. And then in highway, Blake Clark, maintenance 2, began full-time position on February 13th. He's plowing, okay. No, I'm glad he's out there. Yeah, the roads look really good. And Sheriff William Schleg, investigator, is recognized for 15 years of service on February 8th. And then the last one is Social Services, Jill Arvik, transit driver, is recognized for 5 years of service from May 8th, 2017 to February 24th of this year. And we congratulate all of them. Nobody was here. Okay, we'll move on to natural resources. Chip.
Good morning.
Morning.
First on the agenda is quotes for tree seedling, hand planting for this spring. We received 2 quotes on time, and we did receive 1 quote that was late. But either way, it would not have been the low bid. But we're recommending that we approve the quote from Superior Forestry Service, Inc. of Russellville, Arkansas, at $88.50 per thousand. This is the same price that they quoted us for last year's tree planting.
Don't we usually only get 1 quote?
Normally, normally we get about 1, maybe 1 or 2.
Okay.
Nice to see more than
Yeah.
one, so.
Nobody from, because I probably mentioned it a while back, but I can remember when I was down in the south, we'd get people from up north planting down south. Nobody from up north.
These are from, well, they come across the border, Guatemala and Hondurans mostly.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the low quote.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed? Okay.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a easements for a Mr. Ryan Rogers is subdividing his parcel, and the county has retained a 75-foot easement or 75-foot strip along County 9. I'm assuming that at one time we owned the whole 40, sold off everything except for that 75-foot strip along the road right away. And in order for him to have legal access to the 3 lots that he's subdividing his property into, he is requesting easements for all 3 parcels. It's been reviewed by my office, the county engineer's office, and zoning office, and all approved the granting of the easements.
Chip, I noticed in the agenda write-up, it had talked about it being in Rockwood Township, but I believe that's Helga Township. I looked at the legal descriptions, and it's Township 145, Range 33, so that is Helga Township. So the paperwork's correct, but this part here
Okay.
just says it's in Rockwood Township.
My mistake.
That's okay. I noticed it last night. Otherwise, I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion?
I just have one question. So will these easements then follow the land
Yes.
instead of the
Yes.
landowner?
Yep.
Yep, okay.
Okay. Any more? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chip.
The public hearing's not till 9:30.
Maybe we can take Josh first,
Josh?
and then we'll
Yeah.
get into the highway.
Sounds good.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, so the agenda item I have for you this morning is just to update you and discuss where we're at with our PFAS study or work. And I'd like to discuss whether the county should participate in this PFAS study. It's being organized by the Landfill Coalition in response to the MPCA request for landfills across the state to voluntarily agree to sample for PFAS. So if you remember back in December, I brought this forward that the state was requesting all facilities to voluntarily sample. And I indicated that this landfill coalition, which pretty much represents all of the private and public landfills in the state, was considering doing a third-party study. And the landfill coalition has moved forward with this approach and is looking for facilities to commit to participating in this study. The reason for a third-party study would be to ensure an unbiased study that isn't conducted by the regulators such as the MPCA. And this approach would be transparent, science-based, and mutually beneficial to the landfill coalition members, the MPCA, and then other stakeholders in the state as well. So the cost, if we would participate in this study, is estimated to be around $4,000 to $6,000 per landfill. And the sampling and study costs, we'd be looking to be all in for both of our facilities for about $16,000. I have budgeted for additional sampling costs for 2023. I don't need any official action at this time, just kind of would see what the board's thoughts are for continuing to provide support for this landfill coalition process to move forward, and when the time comes, then I'd come back for official action on whether to participate or not. But I think in my recommendation, I think it would be good to go along with this landfill coalition process, as we are eventually going to need to sample for PFAS, whether voluntarily or mandated. And by doing this landfill coalition process, we're standing with the other landfills in the state to kind of go at it at a more unified approach. So
How does this differ from what the MPCA wants us to do?
in the end, it would be pretty much doing the same sampling. The difference is through this study, instead of each facility kind of being out on their own for whatever's found or whatever results, the state's gonna come back for each facility. This would be a more unified approach for this study, would be able to kind of quantify the data and take a more broad look at, the overall results happening around the state at different facilities. So in the end, we'd end up doing the sampling. It's just we would kind of control the narrative versus the state controlling the narrative on the work, so.
Is this something you think then the NPC or the state will be satisfied with our study?
You know, that's kind of yet to be seen in this coalition process. It's kind of moving, I think it's moving pretty quickly, but in hopes to try to be able to get on pace to start this work this spring. But there are still a lot of unknown questions kind of with this landfill coalition and whether everyone's going to go forward with it or not. But I kind of want to just be in a position where, you know, to give them indication one way or the other whether we'll likely participate or not. And if something would come up where I would have say otherwise, I'd bring that back to the board too. But I think just taking a broad look at it, I think it's probably the best approach to go to be part of this third-party study, just so we can control the narrative and kind of quantify the data that comes out of the sampling, so.
Thank you.
Are all counties a part of the coalition?
All facilities are represented by the coalition, but I know not all counties and not all facilities, are going to go forward with it. I did ask that with kind of the head person leading the effort, whether, how many facilities he had committed or not committed. I know there's at least 20 throughout the state, but even like, we're talking about our 9-county group, doing this landfill and demolition study, not all are probably gonna participate. So it's kind of a mixed bag right now, so.
Do they expect to find anything that they don't already know? I mean, we know we got PFAS in our landfills.
I think kind of the general consensus industry-wide is if a person's sampling for it, it's probably gonna be found. You just don't know what elements of that, because it's many different compounds. You don't know what would be found. You don't know if it's gonna be at high levels or low levels. But I think sampling is, like I kind of mentioned, is gonna be required eventually. So we don't know what we'd find.
If we decide to do this, I would want to do it through the third party, not through the MPCA.
And I would be focused on how many are gonna participate. If it's just a handful, that would be troublesome, maybe. If it's enough that are all gonna do this, so the data's meaningful, then be more inclined to do it.
Yeah, and I think that's where I'm hung up at right now, is seeing exactly how many facilities are gonna participate, so. And if it's a good mix of facilities, we have online landfills, so is it gonna be a wide mix of online facilities, or is it only gonna be the line facilities that are gonna participate? So I think that will kind of be my final deciding factor, but.
When do you have to let them know?
I think they're hoping to have support to move forward with it this week. But again, that doesn't lock us into any, agreements and official approvals and all that would be coming at a later time, but.
So in December, we had the conversation about not spending the money or providing the information when it's just being requested and not mandated, right? And now it's changed because I think that there is the possibility that summary data about the impact of landfills, in our region is probably helpful more than just individual data on individual facilities. I think that would be helpful. But as Josh brought this to me last week to review it, I said, I can't come up with a strong recommendation either. I think we really just kind of have to have a feeling for what he's getting from our little local coalition about who's going to participate and who's not going to participate and whether that makes sense for us. It's not going to be long before it's mandated that we're doing the sampling anyway, so it's kind of an intermediary step. But I think it makes a lot of sense for Josh to kind of just have it's sampling. We've already got money budgeted for sampling. We're not really doing anything. Before we enter into a contract, that would come back here before the board with more information. But for right now, it's kind of a wait and see, have a conversation and be prepared to. I think if we walk in, as he mentioned, in a unified voice from this region or from facilities across the state, we're in better shape than if we're kind of disjointed or separated.
Any other questions, or?
Would there be a possibility that the state would require us also to do testing through them? So we'd then be having two different sets of tests?
Yeah, that question's been brought up, and I mean, the sampling is gonna be the same methodology that the state would wanna see, so, I think, you know, they would be able to take, if they wanted that data specifically, we'd be able to use the same data that's collected, so.
Okay, thank you.
We're hopeful at the, you know, with the coalition that the state will go along with that effort as well and see the benefit to it, so.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Finance, so how long will that
Yeah,
take?
I think we can actually, because Kay's not here and Corey's not here, I think we can start on highway items 7A, B, and C.
Sure.
Just have to talk for a little while. That's right.
Yeah, stretch it out.
Yeah. All right, first on my agenda, I've got review and approve 2023. It's a roadmap and the list of the roads and then the resolution designating spring road restrictions. This is a little bit earlier in the schedule than historical. It's one of those things, we may as well get it done. We know it's coming, and also historically, we've always followed MnDOT's lead on the road restrictions. They put the notifications out there. And unless we had, you know, some valid reason for not taking the signage off of a roadway due to, you know, deteriorating conditions, we can always do that. But that would be, I think that's what the resolution says, is that we'll follow MnDOT's lead for signing our roads. So by statute, of course, you've got the 10-ton and the 5-ton on the roads. This is for anything varying from that, and then they have to be signed as such. So this just gives us the go-ahead, get our maintenance crews ready for going out that day and having it signed for following the 3-day notice from MnDOT.
Jed, I noticed on the map, the stretch of Highway 34 between Park Rapids and Nevis there, it's red and green.
Oh, so the red on there is our County Road 80.
Okay. Along the lake there.
Yep, along the lake, the south shore of Beltane there, yeah, so that's the old trunk highway, and ours is not built as strong as what
That makes
34
sense.
is, yep.
Thank you.
You know what, on some of these roads too, you know, typically when we come through with a new design on our roads and we rebuild them, they're typically built to a 10-ton structural capacity now if it's a CASA, but what we do need to be careful of is that we don't run certain loads into a lower graded roadway. Just as an example, we've got CASA 16 that we just did last year. You'll notice that it's blue, showing a 9-ton. It's actually built to 10-ton, but once you take that over and you get into Cass County, it goes into a 9-ton route as well. So to maintain consistency, that's what we do with a roadway such as that. If there was a, you know, a request, if there was a business there that had to use it as a 10-ton, we could, you know, probably take a look at that on a case-by-case basis, but there's no reason 9-ton is sufficient for a road like that. We've got our designated 10-ton routes like CASA 45 and CASA 9 up there by Potlatch and then coming back over to 71. CASA 4 is our 10-ton, and also coming out of Park Rapids going south, we've got CASA 6 that goes down into Wadena County. That's our 10-ton routes. So there's no reason that a load that needs to come through can't get to where it needs to go.
How heavy are those potato trucks?
I don't know, they're just the tandem axles, right? Well, they could be quad axles, but they're just a straight truck, you're talking,
Yeah.
potatoes? Yeah, I guess I don't really know, but
They have warehouses spread around. One of them's on 87 there.
yeah. Yeah, in 87, of course, MnDOT's got that in the plans to be done in 24. They're gonna do one section in the middle, and then 2025, they'll do the end 2 sections of that. But that road's in tough shape. That's why they've got it down at a 7-ton
Oh, okay.
standing. But
Are they gonna try straighten the road at all, or just leave it as is?
very little. They might do something with the curves just east of Hubbard. They had talked about really doing a realignment through there, but, I mean, then you're cutting through somebody's, you know, a major field out there, and it gets difficult. So they'll probably soften those curves a little bit, but other than that, on the east end, you run into, you know, resort areas, lake property, and right away gets really expensive, and my guess is it stays pretty close to the existing alignment.
Chair, I'll move to approve.
Okay. You have a second?
Sure, I'll second.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's approved.
Very good. Next, I've got review and approve final payment to Beltrami County for project SAP 029-030-005. This was if you recall, a few years ago, we did a co-op project with them to rebuild those line roads, and then we came back the next year. Consistent with what Beltrami County does for long-term maintenance on these, they do a seal coat or a chip seal right away. And they were gonna do the middle section, and they asked if we wanted to get in on it for the end sections. We had that project approved. We finally got all of the paperwork, the final paperwork done. So this would be the final payment for the project and the engineering on that. So I would ask for final payment for $2,667.54.
Jed, how long before we find out, like, in a sense, results, if it's working, or?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. So Hubbard's never done chip seals. You know, and if you get into, I mean, there's lots of different ways to do preventive maintenance on your roadways. The major duty that we've done is crack seal. That's pretty common statewide. Chip seals are, you know, some really like it and some not so much. Research shows that the quicker you get to a roadway after paving it with a chip seal, the more bang for your buck, which is, it's kind of odd to take a brand new surface and come in and you chip seal it. You put kind of a rougher surface on there, but in essence what it does is it almost weatherproofs your bituminous pavement, which is a good thing. And so it doesn't let the elements get to that as quick as it normally would have. In North Dakota, they've got projects where they pave it and then they chip seal under the same contract. It's that quick. And so you can see pavement quality curves that show, okay, do a chip seal quick, and then in about 7 years you'll do another chip seal, and then 7 years you'll do another chip seal. Then you'll get to an overlay. Then you do chip seals. And so it's a long deal, as opposed to paving, letting it sit, and then 25 years later you're reconstructing the whole thing. Life cycle cost analysis says do your preventive maintenance, and we'll see. So I don't know. We'll keep an eye on this and see how it performs. It's new for us, so
Okay.
we're kind of excited about that.
And I know that stretch between, say, 71, with the county line road there, Highway 71 going west, gets a lot of traffic.
It does, yeah.
Not so much the east, but
Yep. Yeah, Beltrami County does a lot of it, but I know I didn't answer your question. We're just gonna keep an eye on it and see.
it'll take time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It looks nice when they do it, you know, they put the fog back over and it looks brand new, nice and dark black and whatnot, but, you know, it is a type of weatherproofing on it. So you might see a little bit more of that recommendation from us for certain roads that catch a lot of traffic, so.
One thing I wondered about that, and the slurry or whatever it was they did on 71 there, it seems like it's kind of aggressive, and if it makes your tires wear out faster.
It could, yeah, there's definitely some texture, and of course you like that from a traction standpoint. But yeah, I mean, it creates a little more noise. Your fuel mileage does go down very, very slightly on that stuff, but, you know, we look at it as the benefits are better than the negatives. Yeah, the slurry was good in that case. They use a taconite type fill on that stuff. It fills in the ruts real nice. We haven't had any roadways that I guess I don't feel would require that. We're usually getting to them with a mill and an overlay or a reclaim by the time it probably needs slurry or any type of micro surfacing. But MnDOT just experiences so much more traffic than we do and heavier loads, so they see the rutting on their roadways.
And on Highway 71 there's a few miles going through Hubbard County there. We'll be able to see what happens there.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second. Okay, any further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? No, that's approved.
All right, review and approve quote for spring highway sweeping. Another thing that we bring to you every year. We used to be able to solicit two quotes, at least two quotes on this. The local contractor that did this for us went out of business, or, retired. I shouldn't say out of business, but they retired. And so this is all we're left with is Pro Sweep, and we need somebody that can come in and they can actually clean the stuff up off the roads. If it were to be our forces, all we've got the capability of is sweeping it off to the side, and that's not a preferred method. We need this stuff picked up. So they come in with the actual street sweepers, so they've got water that's being applied to it and reducing the dust, and then it cleans everything up. So bring it to you every year, and I would recommend that we hire Pro Sweep Inc. out of West Fargo for a total flat fee rate of $15,000.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Good. Any more discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
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 That's approved. We got 4 more minutes. Got any updates?
Yeah, I can update you. The LRIP projects are moving forward as planned with all of the approvals. So we've got the bond agreements with the state currently coming back to the townships and the city for signatures on those. So those should be approved shortly. We just received it's a draft copy of the plan for the 13 bridge. So our review, which we've already been involved in the review, so basically it's a signature between myself and the state, and we'll get that one advertised for a letting. The only time-consuming thing there, or the time-sensitive deal, is we got to get out and we have got to cut some of the trees down before the end of March because of the northern long-eared bat. They gave us till March 31st to get those trees felled, and we'll use our own forces so it doesn't mess with the contract on that. Sounds like Knife River Materials will be in early this year to complete our 119 paving along with the township work. CASA 7, go ahead.
Was that bridge on 13 gonna be done this year?
Yeah, that's the one that we have to fell the trees on.
Oh, sure,
Yep.
okay.
Yep, they're out in in a couple temporary easements out there, not a lot of work there, but there is a little alignment shift there that should work a little bit better for the speed through that area.
How long do you think that road will be closed off?
Minimum 3 months. Yeah, that's about typical. Again, it depends on the contractor we get. I believe the contract will give them 70 days, which is 3.5 months. But a larger contractor will probably have it done in 3, and if it's a smaller contractor, not so fast. So it's, not a great detour for that one either, but, what are you gonna do?
I think my detour will be to 11, that's 34, and then over.
Yeah, and that's the detour that's gonna be set up.
Is it?
Some of the
Oh, okay.
locals will find, different routes
Okay.
around that,
Yeah.
which is just fine. We just, anytime we detour traffic, we wanna keep them on paved roads. So yeah, I'm guessing they'll go across on 17, hit 11 or 20 and come up.
Okay.
And then CASA 7, we're trying to get ready, but CASA 7 is turning out to be a pretty complex design. We're still not totally sure of the right-of-way that we're gonna need, and that intersection at CASA 40 is, we wanna make sure that we're doing the right fix there. That's one of my least favorite intersections throughout the county. The site distances are not good. And you got high speed on the one through. You do have a stop on the east-west of CASA 40, but, you come up there and you got a hill to the north. And so if you come on and you turn south, the traffic coming from the north is on you just like that. And then from the south, you're coming around a horizontal curve. And so the same kind of a thing. And so we want to get some site corners cleared there. It's going to take some right-of-way. So worst-case scenario is we would delay that project until next year. But in that case, then we would slide another project up, and I would come to you for approval on that. It's all projects that are in our 5-year approved plan, but just kind of juggling things a little bit. Actually, from a funding standpoint, it might actually work out a little bit better, so.
Has there ever been an accident there in 7 and 40?
Not that I'm aware of. We get reports of a lot of close calls. And, we want to be proactive on the stuff, and
Yes.
I would much rather it gets changed before that happens, but.
It is bad, yeah.
I'm just not a fan of it. we could do a traffic control change there too, if we can't find a real good fix for it and put a four-way stop in. But anytime you change traffic patterns, it's a little bit gutsy on that you give kind of a false sense of security for somebody that says, okay, now I don't have to worry as much because this traffic that used to come through is gonna stop. And then you get somebody that blows the sign because they've always been able to do that. So we have to be careful on when we make those changes, and that's probably something that we would run through the state to do a little study on and make sure that a four-way stop would be sufficient there. But I think we can make some changes there. We're gonna raise the elevation on the 7 portion and then cut the hill to the north a little bit. So cut 4 sight corners in there. Hopefully that'll do the trick. One of the big issues we've got is just south of the intersection on the east side, up on the bank goes up kind of quick, there's a big utility shed up there. And the cost of moving that utility shed would be quite a bit. We haven't even discussed it because we're trying to avoid it. But you can see that's the kind of complexities that we're dealing with on that project.
All right, we can open up the public meeting. We have a motion to open.
So moved.
Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. So this is for the review proposed ADA Title 5 or 6 policies.
Yeah, we've got, so there's 2 policies here. One is the ADA transition plan. That's the Americans with Disabilities Act, and this has to do, as far as from the highway department, this has to do with our sidewalks and curb ramps, the ped access on all of our highways. This comes about, as Administrator Cadwell mentioned in our work session, this act has been out there for years. And so the actual adoption of the transition plan is, it's a requirement of us taking federal money. And so, not that we haven't been doing the things that are listed in our transition plan, but now this will be a formality for, this is the plan we're laying out, this is what we follow. If anybody has any issues with it or comments, this gives them the avenue in which to do so. There's a grievance form so that we can make those changes. And I think the only thing, unless anybody's had any comments or we hear any today, my office has not received any comments regarding the ADA transition plan.
We discussed it pretty well at a work session. Are there any comments from the public? No?
I have not received any comments either.
Okay.
It's pretty straightforward. You know, like I say, it just kind of lays out our plan and what we're expected to do, and then, you know, we need to be following this, and we have been. But the only question I would have then is on page, well, it shows 13 of 60 on your agenda documents, is to designate an ADA Title II coordinator. And this would be, in my opinion, countywide, as you see that the county highway engineer is listed as the contact for the highway portion of this, but we'll have the same deal with the Title VI policy.
You need that today?
Well,
Or is that
upon
something you were
your,
gonna
yeah,
do
I think
later?
upon your adoption of the policy, that should be listed, and then we can go ahead and advertise it as such on the county website. And
So currently, if we adopt this, this is just for the highway department. We had talked about doing it countywide, but we're just doing the highway today, correct?
Yes.
So then my question would be then, for the coordinator, would it just be Jet? But if we went countywide, would that be you?
I'd probably still put myself down as the coordinator for this one because it'll be this year that we extend these to countywide because they should be.
Would you be in agreement with that?
Yep.
Okay.
It would be, seem more efficient to have one person.
But if we go countywide, then,
Yeah, but as I'm saying,
oh,
one
you're,
person.
to have
Yeah,
Jeff,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, there's a lot more, just like we talked about, there's a lot more to the ADA than just the highway department, same as the Title VI. And you're gonna have it with, social services collects a lot of federal money and they need their own, or at least a county-wide one. And I think they've got one like for transit, I believe they've already got one and stuff. So it's there, but I do think you needed a kind of an overseeing person for the entire plan.
Okay. All right, any more questions, discussion? If If not, then closing the public hearing.
Also move.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we can take that up for approval.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve and name Jeff as the coordinator.
I'll second. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. That is approved.
Okay. That's just the ADA that was approved? Is that correct, or both?
Go back to your motion.
Did you intend
Both.
to do both? Okay.
Okay, and I'll second both. And the vote's the same?
Yes.
Okay.
And the
Yep.
coordinator's the same.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We got that straight now. All right, thank you, Jeff.
Yes, thank you.
And now, next up is Corey with the Sheriff's Department.
All right, just a couple of quick items on the agenda. Requesting approval for the quote of $26,650 to Motorola Solutions for body-worn cameras for our jail. I never thought we would really be needing these. It's one of those deals, but in this day and age, it only helps us. It truly does. And this is for a 5-year contract. As you can see, for the quote, it's on I'll find it here. $5,292 a year. The upfront cost is $5,482. So the total for the 5-year plan is $26,650. And this gives us the cameras, the storage, and any warranty and anything that would go along, with the system, and that would outfit all of the jail staff. And it's would come from budgeted monies that we did for this year. And with that said, if there's any questions, I'll certainly answer them. Otherwise, looking for approval for that quote.
Would there be some kind of training with this also?
We would do internal training
Okay.
on that, yes.
I'm assuming it's not that difficult.
No, they're very self-explanatory. You clip them on, the deputies have them now. They work very well, so, yeah.
Thank you.
And everything's recorded while they're working?
Yep.
And then how long does the recording save?
I'm not really sure. It is indefinite. I mean, it's for their whole shift. And then it gets downloaded and then recharged, and they're up and ready for the next shift, so, yeah. I don't remember what the battery life is, but certainly for the whole shift, yeah.
Well, the recording though, how long does that go?
That we save it, you mean?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. It gets, we can set it for, say, 30 days or 60 days, whatever we determine. We're not gonna keep it for indefinitely because that just gets to be too much
Yeah, a lot of data.
hanging out there, but we'll figure out what we wanna do. It very well may be a 30-day turnover on it, so, yeah.
And then every staff person that's on duty wears this while they're there?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
And you indicated, I think, that these are not issued to the staff. They are there that they would pick up and put on when they're wearing.
Yep.
Right, because
Yeah.
with the number that we're purchasing, we're not purchasing one for everybody that works in that
No,
department.
it's whatever is on for
We're
that
we're
shift.
having enough to cover
Yeah.
the shifts as the
Yep.
schedule.
And so then all the information is stored in our system?
This is cloud storage.
It is, yeah, that's what I meant, but it doesn't, if you need to look something up, you don't have to go through this
No,
company,
we have
right?
access to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do, personally, yep.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Second, any more discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's approved.
Thank you. Second item is review and approve quote to Midstate Wireless for radios for the sheriff's office. This has been in discussion for about a year now, and we are in needing to upgrade our old fleet of radios. I think we have 35 total, and we're gonna do planning on doing 25 of the 35 for this year, and we did budget for that, and the Mid-State Wireless, it's state bid pricing, so there's no out of the ordinary stuff there. And 25 of them will get us a good start, and as you'll see, the total price to Motorola is $150,117.50.
So are you planning to replace the other 10 next year?
Yes.
Is this part of what we were looking at, that was a total of but I thought the total was 450?
It was 400, 450, and we asked that they split that over 3 years.
Okay.
So we modified the budget amount to $150,000 over 3 years, knowing it would likely cost us more over 3 years than it would over
But if we're replacing 25 this year and 10 next year, what are we doing the third year?
base stations, support, control stuff, all of the rest of the
Okay.
system. So
All right, thank you.
Scott talked to me about this earlier, and based on Motorola's request, it was replacing the units first and the other things in the subsequent years. So this was the negotiated, instead of $400,000, $150 a year for 3 years.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that passes.
Thank you. That's all I have, unless the board has anything in particular for me.
Thank you for your letter to the legislature.
Yes,
sure.
yes, well written.
I was happy to write that, and
Me.
I'll be speaking at
On
an
Sunday.
event that's coming up as well on that. It's a very important topic. And with that said, I don't know if the board or Jeff has received any citizen inquiries about getting the what word am I thinking of?
I probably will not make it Sunday, but
Okay.
I 100% support your position.
Yeah, okay.
I'll
Yeah.
be there on Sunday to hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully it'll be a good turnout and a good event, so. Okay, very good, thank you.
All right, finance, I guess this is Kay's.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
First up is a resolution to establish an absentee ballot board for the special elections coming up in May and possibly August of this year.
Ian,
Simple enough. I'll move to approve.
okay.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Or any discussion? Haven't had that. If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you. Second is just to update our investment policy for the county. I know you were, you were sent to the final and then a markup, which just shows some minor changes. Instead of, the main changes being, instead of periodically reports, quarterly reports, and I'll follow that schedule the best I can.
So after our conversation last week, I had an opportunity to update Kay, and I made the changes to the policy that I believe were requested. So does this line under one purpose of the policy, does that meet your intention?
Yeah, I read, yep, read it.
We're
It's fine.
staying on this side of setting any quotas or limits, but identifying.
Wanted it to be mentioned,
Yep.
just so that, you're aware, that's really the board's desire, at least the current board's desire.
I'm well aware.
Okay?
And then I replaced periodic with quarterly in 3 spots, and those were the 3 that I found, so I think that that's correct. Under internal controls and reporting. So the clean copy reflects these changes, but I wanted you to see the markup that I did on the copy we discussed last week.
And when you report to us quarterly, it's also being reported to the general public at the same time.
Yep.
Which, so. Yeah. Gotta keep everybody,
I can just simply add an extra page to the monthly reports that I give you through the consent agenda, but at least quarterly, unless you want a specific report set aside from everything else. It's whatever your preference.
I think adding it to the monthly reports makes the most amount of sense.
Yeah. And then if we want to bring it off. the
If you want to
consent
bring it up and
agenda.
ask questions, feel free to do that as well. And if we're at a point where we want board input on strategy, we could also bring that up at that point in time. But at least you'll see those notes. I think right now you see them annually when the annual investment schedule is published along with the audit reports, but you'll see that more often then. We could do it monthly, but they don't change that often. They might not even change quarterly. Some of the things are kind of invested out there.
I think I submitted it to you recently, and I can just add that monthly, and then when it's changed, I can just update it. But you'll have it. I don't know if that means that you need to change the policy, because it's at least quarterly. It's minor.
Okay, got a motion? Or any more discussion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you for responding to my emails prior to the meeting, and I did pass on to the board about Enbridge. So thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
So Gina is not here, but the proposed policy change here is relatively just very definite. And the policy change is that we talked last year about granting authority to HR and administrator to start people on the step commensurate with their experience level. This is a change in the PTO policy to allow their accrual of PTO to start at the same step that they start at, and then accrue from that point. Which means that if somebody starts at step 4, they would start with 4 years of credit when their PTO accruals start. Nothing else really changes. Accrual commences date of effective eligibility. They have to be on pay status of at least 20 hours to be working or to be accruing, and no PTO accrued during an unpaid leave. Part of the, this is part of the conversation that we had with, in negotiations. It's not in the contracts because we said we were gonna do it in the policy when we did it in the policy. There were some language changes because all the contract language says that they will accrue as specified in the chart. So we had to kind of, with the policy on one side of the equation and the contracts on the other side of the equation, we had to put language in the policy that says they're gonna be credited with starting here, so that when we go to the chart and we interpret it, we're not in conflict with any of the contracts. So after Gina and I reviewed this, we believe that this gets us to the point of being able to do that. And the only reason we're bringing you this instead of the entire chapter is we've got new people starting, and we don't want to have to go back and make corrections. So I would honestly, if we approve this, I would ask that we approve this one being retroactive to January 1st to be consistent with the start of the contracts.
Any questions? All right, got a motion?
I guess I'll move. Everybody's quiet today.
Got a second?
I can second.
Okay, any more discussion? Not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes.
And then my updates are relatively brief. Again, a reminder that the legislative conference in St. Paul has been canceled in favor of a virtual conference for the balance of this week. So those who weren't planning on attending may have the availability to attend one or more meetings. Watch for those updates from AMC. Let me know if you have questions. department head meeting is next Tuesday, and I don't remember whose turn it is to attend in addition to Tom.
I went last time, so.
Yeah, but I'll be gone.
Oh, you won't be there?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll be on vacation from, well, actually, after this meeting, we're heading to the Twin Cities, leaving tomorrow morning on a flight. Looks like we're gonna be able to slip it in, maybe, with the
Maybe.
weather. And we'll be back on March 6th.
Okay.
I will be available, constantly checking emails. That's the best way, because part of our trip will be out of country. So email is the best way if you have to get a hold of me.
So Ted and or Dave could both be there next Tuesday.
Yeah.
I will be on a personal time.
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday you will be?
I can do it.
February
Do you,
28th.
do you want two people there or just one?
You can have up to two if Ted and Tom are not available. Sure, you're certainly welcome to attend.
And since AMC is virtual, does that change your guys' thing on MRC? Do you want to attend, or?
Well, if I can get into the motel in time,
And I got an HRA meeting today because it was postponed from yesterday, so I can't attend the MRC.
I think I forwarded the link to everybody.
Yeah, you
Did
did.
everybody get the, okay, so,
Yeah,
I don't, because it depends on, because they are gonna get about 3 to 6 inches of snow moving in, starting about 2, 3 o'clock. And that might slow me down a lot, I don't know. So I don't wanna promise that I can be there.
Can you attend virtually?
probably, yeah.
So if we at least have one person,
Yeah.
because Ted, are you gonna attend?
I might try.
Okay.
I got stuff going on this afternoon. I think I'll be done, so I can attend this afternoon.
Okay.
and then, the other items that I have are the March 14th work session. I've asked Eric Reiki from Park Rapids Chamber to be here to talk about promotion and tourism. And he said, "You just want to talk about promotion and tourism?" I said, "No, give us the round overview of the Park Rapids Chamber and everything that you're doing, but then focus on tourism and plan for questions." And then Jamie Freeman will give an update on the proposed changes to the valuation notices ahead of the value notices going out later in the month. So she'll be here for that. So I think that's gonna be a pretty full day on our March work session. Obviously, there's a lot going on at the legislature. One of the big things, and hopefully this is going through, is the proposal relative to county program aid and the changing of how much is allocated to that would be a pretty good bump for all counties. It's looking like about a 57% increase across the state for counties in the amount of money available, which for us is currently proposed at $588,000. So that's a good piece. I was at a MACA legislative update last week, and I will, in March, be bringing more specific updates that are pertinent here in Hubbard County or statewide, just for your information. If you have things that you have particular questions on, let me know. I'll do some research, I'll do some calls. I think there's a few things that are working through. The paid leave thing, I originally thought would not have anything to do with us at all, but as I understand it, very well may. So we probably want to be advocating for language in there. The intention was to provide paid leave for people that didn't have any. And as I understand it, bargaining units are saying, well, everything we've got, we've negotiated, so anything else that's added, we should get too. And that could have a significant impact.
If I read on that correctly, the employer plus the employee has to pay in, right?
Yeah, I think the proposal is to fund it a lot like unemployment insurance, that there's a piece that's collected from the employee and the employer, and honestly, the more of these programs that they fund through payroll taxes, the bigger of a hole they're digging, but it doesn't make a lot of sense that way.
Wasn't this the place that was gonna hire 300 people to manage it? I think so. I think this was the branch that if this was created, they were gonna hire 300 employees.
Yeah.
So anyway, that
Small
is,
business.
among other things that are, I mean, I know that to put it on local, to small employers is really gonna be a challenge, to not fund it from another pool. I mean, we understand that the people that don't have paid leave have reasons why they have to be away from work, and when they're not paid for that, it creates a problem. But putting that on the small employers is just really, really challenging. There's gotta be a different way to fund it if it's gonna be effective. But it might come through.
There's also the part of, there's already a labor shortage.
Yep.
And now, if I read the legislation correctly, there'll be certain instances where people could have up to 26 weeks off. That's half a year. How does an employer, they can't find people to work anyhow, now find somebody to fill that void for X number of days or weeks?
That's a big concern of the small business people I talk to, because, you know, whatever system you put in place, it can always be abused. And if it's abused, you're not incentivizing people to work then. It's incentivizing them to continue to work less, which is part of the reason we're in the problem we are. And it's just frustrating that some people just don't see that. I don't know why, they just choose not to or not, but it's, when you're a small business owner in a small market, it can be devastating.
So the financial impact, direct financial impact is not the 26 weeks, it's up to the 48 hours.
Yeah.
But yes, holding open the spot or having a place for them to come back, I don't know how you'd enforce that. You know, when service industry or fast food or other places, you know, everybody that can has already included in this market the benefits that they possibly can to make their jobs, to have consistency in their staff. And those that don't are in markets where they really don't have any consistency in staff, and that's part of the problem.
Plus, it interferes with the free market. I mean, if you don't like the benefits you have, you can shop around and find work. A lot of times, not all in all cases, but a lot of times you can shop around and find better benefits somewhere else, and you can change. It's not always the case, but that's how the free market works. And now government is going to step in and kind of throw a monkey wrench in it all.
So those are the updates I have. I don't know if anyone has any questions for me, or
Thank you.
if there's anything specific that you're following, let me know. I can get a hold of people that are working on it.
Okay, committee reports. Who wants to start, David?
Yeah, I can start. A little update on Heritage. We had an executive board meeting on February 14th. Heritage currently has 36 residents, Manor at 13, and the cottage was 16 out of 18. Some adjustments that have been made. The Manor has eliminated complete shifts, save some money there. They're able to share some staff and eliminate one complete shift. Our Heritage Living Center is building its CNA numbers to open some rooms upstairs, and they're currently onboarding 3 CNAs right now. So continuing to make some progress.
Is that still being taught at the schools? The local high schools, do you know?
If it's still at the schools or not, I thought Nevis was doing something
Because they
with it.
did last year, but I
Yeah.
don't remember now if they picked it up this year.
Yeah, I think so, because we're gaining quite a few rapidly. And then I think she mentioned too, several interns are interested for the summer too.
Good.
Good response on that also. So hopefully that'll turn into some permanent employees too.
Sharon?
Action Park Rapids, I talked about the new executive director for Heritage and the District 4 election, and then both Angie and I talked about the current marijuana bill that's introduced legislatively. We both just raised some concerns about that, and the Park Rapids Enterprise actually contacted us to see if we would write a letter. So both Angie and I did that, and it should be in the paper, I don't know, this week or next week. Living at home, the 2025 all-school reunion for Park Rapids is, they're not gonna change it, gonna leave it in 2025. And Living at Home has 2 new closets. I don't know if anybody saw that in the paper, where they're taking donations for like, walkers, et cetera, and people can just check them out and use them and then bring them back. And she also said they have a huge closet of things like Depends, if you know of anybody that needs. She said, we just have gobs of stuff like that, so if you can refer someone. Crystal Brook, they are full. They have 69 apartments and 19 memory care, and they are full. They currently are starting a memory care support group for resident families. Army Arts and Events, they held the first Artist Day on 2/11, and then every third Thursday of the month, they have open mic. Let's see, Heartland Lakes talked about, an art organization meet the second Monday of the month. Derek for the Park Rapids Chamber said the Happy Pack coupon book will be available in April, and then he talked about the HLDC job fair, which is gonna be April 18th at the school. The League of Women Voters hopes to hold a forum for anyone that filed for District 4. Let's see, talked about Angie Graham. Oh, the Family Safety Network, they have an increased number of males reaching out, and the Egg Leaf Shelter is housing several people. I think that's the only thing, yep. That's the only thing I have to report on. It was a good turnout. It was interesting to hear what was going on in the community. If anybody's interested, there was discussion here by several people about a community center. It was brought up that the city wasn't in favor, and I just mentioned that I wasn't at the city meeting, but I'm guessing the reason they weren't in favor is because who's gonna pay for it and who's gonna keep it going. So I'm gonna attend the meeting on Thursday at 4 o'clock. The community's gonna come together to discuss, and I spoke on behalf of the board and just said, I believe to get board support at the county level, you would also need a plan to fund beyond tax dollars.
And wasn't there a couple centers where they talked about, somebody wanted to, have a senior, where they would eat, meals together?
Oh, I don't know, that didn't come up here, but
Okay. And then I know they also were talking about, Boys and Girls Club or something, so it's kinda like almost two community centers,
Yeah.
one for the seniors and one for the youth.
someone did say that the community center, or the Boys and Girls Club in DL is self-sustaining. I don't know anything about that, but, which
Yeah.
reminds me, when you're talking about eating, Helen's Kitchen is discontinuing because the numbers are so far down. And then they did talk about the food shelf, how can they get the word out? Because sometimes they have to throw food, because they have ample. So,
I will share that, my experience with the hockey program over the years, and the Walker Area Community Center struggles.
yeah,
And they
they
did
brought
a-
that up, and they said even with the hockey thing, being the
They did
base
a-
of it.
They did a lot of fundraising, and even then, they struggle from year to year just to make interest payments. So it's one of those things where it's very hard to bankroll something like that.
Well,
You really have to have a benefactor or something, and then you have to have enough to sustain it long-term. Because generally, you don't get enough membership support to sustain a facility like that. Same problem occurs with Little Ralph Engelstad Arena in Thief River Falls, and the large one in Grand Forks, well, it's got a major tenant. They had long-term sustainable funding to help operate it that went with those facilities. Not as much in Thief River as they did in Grand Forks, but otherwise, they would struggle too. 'Cause
Well, if
it's-
anybody's interested, it's 4 o'clock at the Armory. If you want to come and voice any opinions.
With the THC thing, I just read in some recent AMC communication that they now added into it to where they'll allow local units of government to require registration. So it's moving a little bit more closer to what we would be looking for, but
However, if you read the bill, we are the only state in the nation that refuses to have local control opt-out. There isn't a county in the state that will be able to opt out. We will only be able to legislate through licensure.
yeah. But at least that was an addition that they've made, so maybe if we just keep lobbying, of course, it's moving pretty fast is what they said in the AMC letter. So hopefully we can get more local control. we'll see.
One of the things I read that Angie said, yes, is true, that once something is made legal, then the kids, even though they're not of age, perceive it as something safe that they can start using.
I do believe too, in the case of that, you know, the ordinance, we have been discussing that, depending on what happens with the bill, or even if a bill does pass that provides some regulation or clarity to it, we need to have something in place before the new school year starts. To make sure it stays out of the hands of kids and can't be sold to anybody under 21, because that's a real problem for our schools right now.
Yeah, they have nothing to fall back on.
Right, and I don't want them to have to start a school year again and have the same problems they did this year.
As I'm seeing that statute and the language, our proposed ordinance, I think, works really well with the language that's coming through with the local licensing, taking on that authority and being able to do that, and the other elements that I think we added are also appropriate, would not be inconsistent with what I've seen.
So once the legislative session is over,
And
we really need to take that up and address it.
Well, the only thing I have, and it's probably a follow-up to what I mentioned at the work session, is we had a mental health board LAC meeting, and again, they brought it up on transportation. You know, some of the things that were mentioned was long waits for the bus. So when they bring that up and they ask me about it, you know, it sure would be nice to have that transportation person on that board too, who can address it right there when they bring it up. So have you followed up on that or anything yet?
I believe we have, yeah. I saw the communication back and forth between Brian and Nick.
Okay, so Nick is the one, he'll be on the LS mental health board?
I will have to double check. We talked about two different things. Mental health, I thought was gonna be someone Michael would designate.
That's, well, it's the same one that I'm on. And the people from the drop-in center are actually the one who run the meeting. It gives them more hands-on for it. And it works well that way. They feel like a part of it.
A constituent mentioned to me that they happen to live in Todd County and have some experience cabin up here, but they said that their transportation seems to get used a lot more heavily in Todd County than ours is up here. So if somebody on the committee is looking for some input on what they may have done differently to garner more community support and get more use, that'd be a good place to reach out to.
But the people who go to the drop-in center are probably the biggest users of the transit. So when they voice an opinion on it, it'd be good to listen to it. Okay, that's all I have.
I had HRDC, we talked about housing opportunities. HRDC is heavily involved in housing activities, including housing rehabilitation and housing education and coaching. They have HRDC, one part of us is also the HHDC, Headwaters Housing Development Commission. And they talked about things that are happening, not so much in Hubbard County, but there is the housing rehab and education stuff is available for residents in Hubbard County. It's just like with the food shelf and that, how do you get the word out that these things are available for people that need them? We also talked about HRDC has some small funds with the Northwest Minnesota Foundation. There was a staff person from Northwest Minnesota Foundation there to kind of say what we've got and what it can be used for and stuff like that. They're small funds. I think one's got 18,000 in it, and another's got 5, and another's got 2,000 or 3,000, something like that. We're talking about maybe combining them all to make one fund so that we can kind of draw from that. Talked about In Hubbard County, the city of LaPorte was awarded a grant for safe, oh, now I forgot what they called it. Safe pathways to schools. I asked about, so like with the city of LaPorte, you have the main part of the city, but then the school is actually on the other side of Highway 2, so they talk about safe trails and that to the school. I asked Tony about how other cities in Hubbard County, other school districts in Hubbard County could participate in something like this. And he said that in November, they'll be writing grants again, so if there's any school districts in Hubbard County that are interested in getting some kind of grant to help with the safe paths, safe trails to schools, that would be available then. And then we just had some administrative stuff that we went through, just like with every organization, server backups and equipment. Talked about the Juneteenth holidays, whether we're gonna provide that as a day off or not. We talked about if we did, we probably would rather trade it for another day or something like that. And I guess that's really about all I have for HRDC.
Okay. Anything else, Jeff?
Yeah, I emailed Crystal Murphy and asked her about the CNA training program, and yes, that's continuing. They're not gonna stop that, it's very popular. And just a reminder that candidate filing for Commissioner 4 District is open until Friday, 2/24 at 5:00 PM. The filings are listed on the county website.
Okay, got a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we're adjourned.